Week 14 of fantasy football season. Here's a few tight ends I looked at off the wire this week. The first tight end, Freiermuth, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Freiermuth and Russell Wilson the last few weeks, they're definitely getting the rapport down. And surprisingly, he's out there in 50% of fantasy league. Just making the list this week here is Freiermuth. Last 3 out of 4 games, 9 or more fantasy points in PPR leagues here for Muth. Week 10 at Washington, 3 catches, 17 yards, a touchdown. Week 11 versus Baltimore, 2 catches, 14 yards. Week 12 at Cleveland, 4 catches, 59 yards. And Week 13 at the Bengals, 6 catches, 68 yards, and a touchdown. So this offense, they're putting up a lot of points of late, especially with Russell Wilson in their quarterback, spreading the football out, making plays. And it looks like Russell Wilson's definitely turned the clock back for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. So Freiermuth, while he's out there in 50% of fantasy leagues and coming off a big game with 6 catches, 68 yards, and a touchdown, he's going to be someone, this is the last chance for fantasy owners to go out there and get it. Now with 6 teams on bye, he's definitely a valuable add this week. The next tight end, Zach Ertz, the Washington Commanders. Ertz, I know he's going on bye for this Commander team, but now 3 weeks in a row, he's found the end zone in Zach Ertz, and one of the better tight ends in fantasy football this season. The number 2 target in the passing game for the Commanders. Week 11 at Philly, 6 catches, 47 yards, a touchdown, 2-point conversion. Week 12 versus the Cowboys, 6 catches, 38 yards, a touchdown. And Week 13 versus Tennessee, 3 catches, 35 yards, and a touchdown. So like I said, they're going on bye week. He's out there in 51% of fantasy leagues is Zach Ertz. Number 2 option, can run all the routes. I know he's up there at age a little bit, but he still has the IQ and the playmaking ability to go out there and make plays. And him and Jaden Daniels have a good rapport. And I also always say a young quarterback security blanket and best friend in the offense is the tight end position. Next tight end, Hunter Henry of the New England Patriots, out there in 53% of fantasy leagues. And for the most part, Hunter Henry, he's been putting up numbers with Drake May in the lineup over the last 6 weeks of the season about. So the last few games for Henry, Week 11 versus the Rams, 6 catches, 63 yards in that one. Week 12 in Miami, 5 catches, 44 yards. And Week 13 versus Indianapolis, 7 catches, 75 yards on 9 targets. So Hunter Henry and this Patriot team, they're going on bye week as well. But arguably, he's number 1 B target in this offense, him with Demario Douglas in the passing game for this New England Patriot team. So I like what I've seen from Henry. He's a good route runner. He's got a nose for the end zone as well at times. And him and Drake May definitely have a good rapport. So if you need a tight end, Hunter Henry's out there in 53% of fantasy leagues. Next tight end, Mike Gesicki of the Cincinnati Bengals. So Mike Gesicki, we've seen some decent games out of him this season, but mostly the games with T. Higgins in the lineup. His numbers obviously gone down with T. Higgins, the number 2 target in the offense. So the last few weeks here for Gesicki, like I said, the numbers haven't been great, but still someone to consider. Week 9 versus Vegas, 5 catches, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Week 10 at Baltimore, 4 catches, 30 yards. Week 11 at the Chargers, 2 targets, had the goose egg. And Week 13, a nice bounce back versus the Steelers, 5 catches, 53 yards, caught all his targets. So Week 14 could be a potential up and down the field ball game for the Cincinnati team at the Dallas Cowboys. I know the Cowboys, their defense have played better over the last few weeks here, but they haven't versus an offense like Cincinnati where they're easily scoring 30 points a game pretty much the whole season in Cincinnati. So Mike Gesicki, a big target. Him and Joe Burrow have a good rapport. As a number 3 target in this offense, I still believe he could go out there and put up some good performances out there right now in tons of fantasy leagues at 84%. Next tight end, Noah Gray of the Kansas City Chiefs. And Noah Gray, he's going out there, and he's been solid over the last few weeks for this Kansas City Chiefs team. Pretty much the number 3 option in the passing game. Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins, and Noah Gray. So a lot of 2 tight end sets this Kansas City Chiefs team is running. We've seen some flashes from Gray in the past over the last few years where he's been with this Chiefs team and Patrick Mahomes for a few seasons now. And now the last 3 weeks, he's really picked it up. Week 11 at the Bills, 4 catches, 23 yards, 2 touchdowns. Week 12 at the Panthers, 4 catches, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns. In Week 13, it was a little bit of a down game, but still 4 catches, 58 yards, and 6 targets. At 3 weeks in a row, 9 or more fantasy points in PPR leagues here for Noah Gray. Week 14, another division matchup. Chargers coming to town Sunday Night Football. Going out there making plays and 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. He's someone definitely fantasy owners should look at, even though he's number 2 tight end on this Chief team, and he's available right now in 89% of fantasy leagues. And the final tight end I looked at off the wire is Dawson Knox of the Buffalo Bills. So Dawson Knox out there in 92% of fantasy leagues. We've seen Dalton Kincaid out over the last couple weeks, including the bye week in week 12. And if he's out once again, week 14 is a great matchup at the Rams, at 9th most fantasy points to tight ends on the season. So anytime you're in a high-powered offense, especially with Josh Allen at quarterback, who's one of the best, if not the best quarterback in all pro football, you're going to get targets and you're going to make plays. And we saw a few years ago, before they drafted Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox was going out there and putting up numbers week 10 in Indianapolis, 2 catches, 40 yards in that one. Week 11 versus Kansas City, 4 catches, 40 yards. And then week 13 in a snowstorm, 2 catches, 56 yards on 2 targets, where it was the run game with James Cook and Josh Allen just making things happen with his legs, where Knox only had the 2 targets, but still 7.60 fantasy points. So like I said, if Kincaid's out this week, it's a great matchup at the Rams, and he's out there in 92% of fantasy leagues. So that's a few tight ends I looked at off the wire for week 14 of the fantasy football season.